Families can be wonderful and supportive, but they can also be experts at overstepping, guilt tripping, and ignoring personal space like a TSA agent who really loves their job. If you struggled to say no to a family request, maybe that felt more like a demand, you're not alone. The good news, you can establish limits and boundaries without turning into a villain or cutting ties completely. Today, you'll learn actionable strategies and my 4 steps to set healthy, effective boundaries with the people you're trying so hard to love. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. You know who I am, Dr. Abby Medcalf. Very happy to have you here. And this is a much requested episode. You know, I'm the boundary queen, and we'll talk about my books and my workbook and all that. But, you still want more, and I'm going to give you more because that's how I do it. So I do have an amazing giveaway today that I'll mention in a moment. So anyone can get it for free. But I also want to say that I've created, another masterclass for this episode for anyone who really struggles with the topic and needs to go deeper. You need to do more work. So I've got great worksheets, journaling prompts. I have a guided visualization for this episode that's available to my Patreon members. But if you don't want to make that kind of commitment to join my online community, which is called the One Love Collective, you can also buy all the extras in a bundle for $8. And so at the very end, I'll list all the things that are included in that bundle. So if you're interested, you can wait until the end to see if this is something you want to invest in. If you want to really, again, dig deeper, if you know you need more homework and more hand-holding through it, then you might want to get that. So let's jump in. So no, I don't want to start there. I'm going to start here. You might feel like your family treats you, they treat your life like it's a project, that you didn't sign up to participate in. Maybe your mom still calls you every day to ask if you're, eating enough vegetables, even though you're 40 years old, or your cousin expects you to fund their latest business venture, or your siblings. Maybe you have a brother who drops their kids off at your place like you're running some unlicensed daycare. You know what I'm talking about. If that's going on, anything that feels like that, or just a family that's constantly asking you questions about your private life, your work, your relationship, and feel like they are entitled to all this information about your life, if any of that's true, it's probably time to set some healthy limits with, that beloved family of yours. But I want to say before we jump in is that there's a lot of cultural expectations and boundaries. So, different cultures have different expectations around family involvement, physical space, and really the emotional boundaries. And when I'm saying cultures, I mean that in the sense of a family culture, and I also mean that if, obviously if you're from India and maybe living here in the US, or maybe living in India, or, you're from Brazil, or, you're from somewhere where the cultures are different than, let's say, in Japan or in somewhere else. And I'm going to talk about some of the differences, but, because some cultures really value independence, we're moving out at 18 is maybe the norm, where others are really deeply communal, where family members live together or expect constant closeness. And again, I'm not just talking about, cultures outside the U.S. I'm talking about here in the U.S. also. There's, we're quite the quote unquote melting pot of different cultures here. And it doesn't matter if your family goes all the way back to the Mayflower, you might have a family culture of being very independent or whatever. So, and I want to say that nothing's wrong. There's no culture that's right and one that's wrong, obviously. So, but it's important to recognize where your own boundaries might clash with the cultural norms of your family. That's what's important. And so I can't go deep here. Obviously, this would be a 5-hour episode if I was going to cover every culture and what the differences are. But I did create a boundaries within different cultures worksheet. And again, I would highly recommend that to people, even if you don't consider yourself from another culture, to help you dig deeper and identify what you want to work on specifically. So you can download that if you're watching me on YouTube, like and subscribe, and it'll be below the video. If you're, otherwise, obviously my Patreon community, my online community, it'll all be there for you. Or you can go to my website and download it below on the relationship tips and tools page, which is the blog that goes. I have a corresponding blog with every single episode, which is also nice if you want to look at notes or something and you don't want to listen all over again, or you're not sure where I said something. You can just look at the blog and it'll mostly be there. But it'll be there. It'll be on the podcast show notes page, all the places. So feel free. And just so you know, you will be put on my love letter list, which you'll get a love letter twice a month. That's it. I'm not going to sell you anything. I don't sell the list, obviously. It's truly just me trying to help you feel motivated more often. That's it. It's a short little story. It's not an update on what I'm doing or anything like that. It's truly a love letter. So, and if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. I won't notice. There's many thousands of people on there. It's okay. So, and again, I want to say it's a great exercise to do even if you're the whitest person alive and have lived in the U.S., since the Mayflower, or your family can trace its Italian lineage back to the Kingdom of Italy. Maybe you're living in Italy listening to this, your lineage is back to the Kingdom of Italy before it was a country in 46, I think it became a country. You still have a family culture around boundaries wherever you're from. So this will help you think deeper. All right. So why are boundaries essential for your sanity and your relationships? Why is this such an important topic? Because I think boundaries get a really bad rap. Some people hear boundaries and they think cold, selfish, unloving. But in reality is what I always say, boundaries are love. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're relationship enhancers. And I'm going to say that again. Boundaries with family, with friends, with whoever aren't barriers. They're relationship enhancers. They are love. Think about it. If your best friend kept texting you at 2 a.m. for relationship advice, you'd eventually start ignoring or complaining about them. No? Right? Or if your boss kept dumping all their work on you without a word, you'd probably start looking for another job. It keeps you separate when you don't say your boundaries. But, and I will say this, but when family oversteps, we often tell ourselves, because I can't leave the job. I can't get rid of this friend. It's my family. So often when they're overstepping, we tell ourselves, oh, it's just the way they are. My mother will never change. We endure it. And then you get resentful. And then you're snapping, it's Thanksgiving and you're snapping at Aunt Carol when she comments on your weight one more time because you've never put the boundaries down, and you're actually finding parents, family to be a burden. You're finding them to be exhausting. You're finding them to be draining. That's not love. That's just obligation. That's not love. And I am telling you, believe it or not, this isn't about your mom changing or your dad changing or anybody else. It's about you changing. So your mindset really needs to shift. And it is time to equate healthy boundaries with healthy relationships because they help you in a bunch of ways. They protect your time, your energy, your emotional well-being. Boundaries foster mutual respect, right? Instead of feeling like an unpaid therapist or an ATM or something. Boundaries, when you have them, they help you have loving or at least neutral thoughts about your loved ones instead of constantly feeling resentful and frustrated or drained. And that's why they're love. Because it's not love that you say yes to things that you want to say no to, and then you complain about the person. Why is that loving? You think you're being nice. You're not. That's not nice. It's not nice to talk shit about people behind their back. It's not nice to complain to your partner or your other sibling or whoever all the time. It's not nice. You got to get rid of that. So when you set clear boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You're giving the relationship the best chance to thrive, right? What I always say, walls are meant to keep people out and boundaries are meant to keep people in. And that's what you're trying to do. So let's talk about creating your boundaries. Now, I wrote an entire book, Boundaries Made Easy, Your Roadmap to Connection, Ease, and Joy, dedicated to boundaries, which includes a step-by-step guide for how to make them And I also just released the workbook, Boundaries Made Easier. If you're watching me on YouTube, they're behind me looking beautiful, along with my Amazon #1 best-selling book, Be Happily Married, Even If Your Partner Won't Do a Thing. Let's not forget about that one, that golden oldie. Uh, but the workbook just came out like a month ago or 2 months ago when you'll be seeing this. Boundaries Made Easier. And that's for those of you having a really tough time holding your boundaries. So maybe need even more self-reflection, more hand-holding, more work. But in both books, I go into great detail explaining that boundaries are created in 3 steps. And those 3 steps are, first, figuring out your deal breakers or your core values. What's at your core? What do you have to have? Step 2 is then creating standards from those values, from those core values, those deal breakers. And then step 3 is that you have to add some teeth or a response you'll have if the other person doesn't respect your boundaries. So, and those are not, the teeth are not consequences. No one's getting punished for not following your boundary. And I'll talk about that later, right? And, your core values or your deal breakers are things like respect, appreciation, being part of a team, someone always having your back, whoever you're in relationship with, they have your back, kindness. So you want to be careful in creating your boundaries because you want to focus on those things that you need, not what you would like to see or what you want. Okay. And that's where people get into trouble. So for example, if your deal breaker is respect, the standards you would create from that might be that, like, let's say if it's your partner, they include you in all financial decisions, right? But for anybody, it would be that they give you their full attention when you speak to them about what's important to you, right? This is, to me, that's a great standard for all your relationships. They treat you a certain way alone or in a group setting. They just treat you in a certain way. They always have your back. They talk you up. They have your best interests at heart. They don't gossip about you or they don't gang up on you with others. Like there's a way that you like that. The relationship is reciprocal. Not 50-50. 50-50 is BS, but reciprocal. So those are all ways, right, that would be a boundary, okay? And if someone's not acting in that way, that you would draw a boundary. And you would say, if you're not, that's not, you need to include me in all financial decisions with your partner, right? And your partner doesn't, there needs to be something you'll do. There needs to be teeth. There needs to be a response, and you need to do it if they make a decision and don't include you. So, it might be that with a partner, you need to include me off, and if you don't, then we're going to go to couples therapy. We're going to start couples therapy, and we're going to work on it there, something like that. And then you need to make the appointment, and you need to go. However, whatever that is. So those are things you need to see. So ways you'd like to see respect might be, maybe with your partner, might be things like, oh, they pick up after themselves. They throw their socks directly in the hamper. They bring you flowers. They plan romantic trips for you. They say thank you for what you do around the house or at work. These are all things we'd like to see. But I'll tell you that, because you're right now going, well, yeah, that's a boundary. No, that's not the boundary. Those are things you'd like to see. Those are very nice. Those are things, but you're assigning a meaning to let's say, my partner doesn't pick up their socks. They think they're made, or I've asked them a bunch of times, they don't respect me. You assign meaning to that. But I am telling you right now, if you truly felt respected by your partner in other ways, like that they treat you a certain way when you're out with people, that they ask you how you feel often, and then they respond to that, you would not care that there was a sock hanging around. You would throw it in a hamper yourself. You'd be like, oh my God, I love this person so much. There's something I can do for them. I'm telling you, when you don't get what you need, you focus on what you want. So be very careful when you do this. So, right? You end up kind of over-focusing even on what you'd like to see when you don't get what you need. And it becomes too much for you, and it becomes too much for the other person. So it's too much for you because you end up focusing everywhere, and you start to see every little thing other people do as a sign that they don't, in this case, respect you, right? For your partner, mom, or friend, it's too much because they have this huge target. They feel overwhelmed, I'm telling you, and they feel like no matter what they do, they can never do anything right, or it's never enough. I know you've been in these conversations before, right? So that's that's what you have to look at. And again, I go into lots of detail in my books about this. I'm going to give you other things today, but if you really want to go deep for free, you can go search boundaries on my website. If you want me to hold your hand through the process and or if you want to support me, you could buy a book where everything is in one place and I've systematized it and laid it out in a really clear way, how to do what I just described in more detail. But if you can do it on your own, great, go for it. And so before we jump into the 4 steps for holding boundaries with your family, I want to mention again that I created like this mini masterclass on setting boundaries with your family. That's again only available on my Patreon community or the One Love Collective. And so that's all there. Just it'll be at the end, okay, where I'll list everything and you can decide for yourself if you want to get it. I just want to say, so there's lots of ways to get to where I'm telling you can go, all right, if you need more help. But hopefully today will give you everything you need and you'll just have enough. So let's talk about these 4 steps to holding boundaries with your family. One is, the first step is that you have to communicate boundaries firmly and with loving intention, okay? So that's the number 1. And this is the tricky part, right? Is saying it out loud. You have to communicate your boundaries before things happen, whenever possible, but you have to communicate them at some point, even if it's after the fact, but before the fact is my favorite. So because you want to give other people a heads up with how you're going to be shifting how you relate to them, right? You want to tell them so you can set them up for success. But if you don't tell them and then just sort of wait, I guess, till something happens and then say your boundary, you can do that too. But I really highly recommend that once you've done the work and you're like, here's my new boundaries, here's what I want, I would love for you to send and I would like to do it individually. You could sit down with your mom, you could send an email, you could, don't send a text, but you could, whatever, but have some sort of actual meeting. Go, hey, I'm going to be making some shifts. I've been very unhappy. I'll give you some examples later about how to do this, but because it's best to wait for a good moment when you're feeling relaxed and content with the other person, if that's possible, right? It's at that moment. Let me just give you the examples now. So it's at that moment that you might say to your dad, hey, can I speak to you about something? And he'll hopefully say yes. If he doesn't, by the way, that's not a good time. Do you have 15 minutes so we could talk? I just want to tell you something. And then you can say something like, I haven't liked the way we've been communicating. I walk away from our conversations not liking how I've reacted to you because I feel defensive. I get angry. Again, and this is really good because you're putting it on yourself, like how you don't like how you're communicating. You don't like how you react, which is really good. You're not blaming them. This is a great way to do it. And what happens is I end up feeling disconnected and resentful. And I want to feel closer to you. You're my dad. I love you. So there's some things I need to put in place. So you might say, so for now on, I'm not okay with any advice, suggestions, or criticism. And you might leave out the word criticism because he might think, I never criticize you. I'm just giving you feedback, So you might even just say, no advice, no suggestions, no comments. You might use it that way on what I'm doing. I want you to treat me lovingly, and I'm looking for you to be a cheerleader in our conversations. So if there's times you can't do that, I'll be ending the conversation. I'll be walking away. I'll be hanging up, whatever the teeth is. Do you see that? So you say what you need, and then you say what the teeth is going to be. And here's my favorite to add to this. I'll be walking away. I'll be ending the conversation, and, we'll try again another time. I would love for you to always have, and we can try again another day or another time. Because that's letting people know that you're in it to keep trying, that this is a process, that this is a skill you're both learning, and you're going to try another day because you love this person, you're committed to the relationship. Now, your dad will probably respond with things like, what, I can't give my opinion anymore? I'm just supposed to sit back quietly while I see you making these mistakes? You're asking me to change, or my favorite, you're asking me to change my personality. And this is me. This is, just who I am. I have to say things, I'm a Jewish mother. This is just me or whatever. So your response needs to be to stick to the mantra, right? Don't get pulled into them. Don't get pulled into what they're, a boundary is when you really stop getting involved in what other people think, feel, or say, or do. It's all about you and what you're thinking, feeling, doing, and saying. That's it. So you can stop and go, well, I'm telling you how I need to interact to feel close to you. If you don't want to do that, it's your choice. I'll be sad, but I'll certainly understand. And then the next time you talk, the next time you do something, and they will try, I guarantee you, guaranteed. Don't be surprised. They will absolutely 100% the next time you talk, maybe even later in that conversation, give you opinions, give you suggestions. And your job in that moment is to say, I told you there's no more suggestions. I don't want you commenting anymore about my work life. So I'm going to go. And I love you. And, we'll try to have the conversation another time. And you walk out or you hang up the phone. Don't keep engaging. Just done. You've said your piece. You're done. You're out. You're out. It's why it's also great not to have these kind of conversations texting, because they can keep trying to talk in the text to you. If you are doing something texting where that's happening, stop responding. Just stop responding. Try not to read it if you can. You don't have to block them necessarily unless this is a really big situation, but just stop responding. Just stop responding. Do not respond. I don't care if they yell and scream, if there's shouty capitals. Don't tell them asked and answered. Don't say another thing. You've already said it. You've already told them what you'll do. You don't need to remind them what you'll do. So, and that's how they pull you back in. They start to throw these things out. So you said the boundary is, if you act this way to me, I'm going to end the conversation. You've said it. That's it. So now you need to end the conversation. So if they keep trying to have the conversation with you, what do you mean? I was just trying to be nice. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Don't respond. Don't respond. You've already said you're going to end the conversation. Stop. So end it. This is on you. Even if they say something nice, like, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again, just leave it. It's fine. You'll meet with them another day. You'll call them next week. You'll whatever, and you'll pick it up again. And when you pick it up again, they might say, wow, I never heard back from you. I thought you were mad at me. They'll probably do that. And you'll say, no, I just had told you I was ending the conversation, so I did. That's it. Just stop. Shut up. The biggest part of boundaries is shutting up. Stopping with the explaining. I know it's hard. It's hard for me. I like to talk. Come on. I don't, you're laughing. You're like, Abby, you shut up. Yeah, it's hard, but you got to do it. All right. Number 2 is to be confident. Do not apologize. Do not justify. Do not explain. No is a complete sentence. Do not repeat your boundary. You say it once. And if the person doesn't adhere to it, again, it's now your job to follow up on the teeth part. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. That's your job. When you give someone reasons for your boundary, they will find ways to poke holes in it, and then you'll be trying to defend yourself. Your only reasons, right, that you might give to someone or that you want to feel closer to them, and you can't do that when you're feeling resentful and frustrated. That's it. They can argue that all they want. Well, I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. I wasn't trying to do that. I'm just trying to help you. Blah, blah, blah. It's always a just, right? Just blah, blah, blah. And again, your response, that's it. You don't have to, you just go, yeah, I know. That's it. See the quiet, see the silence, which is funny on a podcast. I can't do too much of it, but you're like, is this thing on? Right? But do you see what happens there? So the other person might be like, do you understand? It's like, yeah. That's it. You don't engage. Don't engage. It will run out of steam. Okay. Number 3, and this to me is actually probably the most important of all they're all really important. Never mind. They're all brilliant and important. Yes, Abby, I know. You have to stop being angry. You've got to stop. That's the mindset shift you really need. You have to stop getting angry when someone doesn't follow your boundaries. No matter how perfectly you say what you've got to say, most people will get upset that you've drawn a boundary. It's the reason you have to do it in the first place. They don't get it. That's the reason you need the boundary. So of course they're upset. They like it the other way. Thank you very much. I say with love, right? Again, and part of the bundle that I have, the masterclass I have, bundle of stuff I have that my Patreon's getting, and I would encourage you, I did a guided visualization of like literally being across from someone doing this and how to guide yourself through so you could feel more loving instead of angry. But anyway, just saying. Here's how I always compare it. You want to be like a cop giving a speeding ticket. Okay. They don't come up to your car window, right? You get pulled over by a cop on the highway here in the United States, at least, right? They don't come up to your window screaming at you, why are you speeding on my highway? They don't take it personally. They don't think it's their, that you're saying F you to them because you were speeding. No, they come up to your window, they go license and registration. They calmly, they give you the ticket, and then you need to go deal with the consequences, with the outcomes of your actions. You need to be the cop. That's all you're doing with families. Stop being so pissed at them. How dare they retramp? No, this is what they're doing. This is by the way, you should take responsibility of the fact that they're doing it, because this is the relationship you co-created. I say with love, I love you, but it's time to stop being an effing victim. I will not allow it. I will not allow it. This is not the podcast for you if you think of your life as a victim and everyone else is to blame for your lot in life. I am not your cup of tea, and I would stop listening right now, because there's nothing else I'm going to say that's going to hit with you. Because if you think boundaries are other people's responsibility, you will forever be miserable. Congratulations. If you'd like to be miserable, go for it. I decided many years ago I wanted to stop being miserable, because trust me, I thought that for years. You think like I'm some... I don't know, came out of the womb knowing all this stuff? Of course not. It was from my pain, my misery, that I did the work to understand all this that I'm now teaching and work on this with my clients. And I've seen their lives transform because you learn these keys to happiness, these keys to thriving. So be the cop. Love them even as they are trying to trample your boundary. They can't trample it, by the way. Only you can allow that. So be a cop, be calm, be clear, and remember boundaries are love, right? Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. If you react emotionally, did I say that word? If you react emotionally, it turns into a power struggle, not a productive conversation. So you have to keep your response neutral and loving. Again, kind. So you could say something like, mom, partner, sibling, whatever, I love you and I want to connect. When you speak to me this way, when you react like this, when you say blank, whatever that is, insert your boundary issue there. I don't want to spend time with you, and I end up resentful and angry, which I don't want. So I'm going to walk away now, like I said. Do you know what I mean? You can do that. And we're going to try again another day. Like, see the hope there? And we're going to try again later. You're not walking away so pissed. I love and we'll try again later. I think it changes the whole energy of the whole thing, because you're letting them know they have chances in the future with you, which I hope they do, because this is a skill they need to learn. This is something you're learning together. But every time, let's say it's 2 months in and they've been really good with your boundary. Your mother hasn't mentioned the baby weight you gained for 2 months, but then you're at dinner and she starts to say something about, do you really need another serving? Like, you're trying, and you're going to just go, Mom? And you're going to look at her. And she's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry. I just, I thought for a moment. And you're like, I understand. And then you're going to get yourself out of there. You're not going to let it go. Because as you let it go, you know what happens? People just apologize for their violation and then go on as usual. And then they're going to keep doing it. Might be 2 months from now, might be 6 months from now, might be 2 minutes from now. But they're going to keep doing it. When you make that, and I know you're thinking, oh, it feels so petty, Abby. Aren't people allowed one mistake? Nope. She knows. She went on autopilot, and if you don't stop it, she'll stay on autopilot. She hasn't made this a habit yet. Once something's a habit of not talking about something, of always being mindful in that way, they'll just stop doing it. I promise you. But you have to be all over that. It's kind of like if you, I think were eating in a certain way and doing really well with your eating, and you had a really bad day. Again, I wouldn't want you to beat yourself up about it, but I would want you to get Like if you ate something you're not supposed to eat in the middle of the day, I wouldn't want you to go, oh, well, I've already ruined the day. Let's go. I would want you right there to pick up on like, hey, I've been treating my body really well. I did just eat this whatever that I don't normally eat. I'm going to just allow it, but I'm going to make sure I have the rest of the day feeling strong and good. And I'm going to actually enjoy this in the moment, maybe, if it's a food thing, but I'm going to stick to the boundary right away. You're not going to go, oh, in 3 weeks, oh, at the beginning, it's March 1st when you're doing it. And you're like, oh, I'll just eat this way till April, no. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to follow through again with love, with openness, like, hey, I'm going to go now. Feels like things might get off track and I don't want them to because I love you, but I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. That's it. Don't have to slam a door. See, if you do this without being so mad, people will start to engage you differently. And by the way, you'll feel different, which to me is the most important part. You'll stop feeling so resentful of your family members. That's up to you. Okay? It's up to you. 4 is you have to follow through. And I've been saying these things all along, but that's really your step 4 is a boundary without follow through is a suggestion. It's just you talking. It's not a boundary. It is not a boundary if there's no follow through, if there's no teeth, if there's no some outcome on the other side. If you say you won't answer work calls during dinner, but then you do, the boundary dissolves. Boundaries only work when you enforce them consistently. It's on you. And remember, so don't threaten. I told you that if you talk about my weight, I'm going to leave, so don't do it again. Don't threaten. Again, if you've made a boundary clear and the other person tramples it in some way, it's now your job, yours, not theirs, to follow through on what you said you do if they didn't respect the boundary. And again, I don't care if it's been 3 months since they did it. I don't care if it's been 3 minutes. It doesn't matter. Again, no drama, no yelling, no slamming of doors, no going home and seething. I want you to be like just feeling in the moment so proud of yourself for following through. Okay? I want you to feel how good that feels to make a boundary. And I'm going to sneeze. Look, I sneezed. Did you say God bless you? I didn't hear it. Okay. All right, we're back. So now I want to say, I think a lot of people confuse limits and boundaries. So these rules apply to limits also, because there are smaller areas in your interactions that I refer to as personal limits. Okay. And these are slightly different than boundaries. And I think this is where people get way off with boundaries because everything's a boundary. Oh my God, like picking up your socks is a boundary and going here. And that's why people get exhausted by them. And again, you won't care so much about the picking up the socks because that's like a limit really in a moment, not a boundary. If your boundary is being met, if your true need is being met, I'm telling you, you're not going to care so much about all this little stuff. You're just not. I guarantee you, I'm telling you right now, you're going to be amazed. You're going to be amazed. And I can only say this, not because of me, not because I don't care about these things, because I've worked with thousands of people and it is true across the board. Unless you have a severe, mental health issue, thought disorder, or something else, which, that's a whole different ball of wax. But the vast majority of you listening do not. You are going to see how freeing it is to have boundaries, to get what you need from the people around you, to feel so loved, cherished, supported, people having your back, knowing people are there for you. And when you feel that way, when you feel like your partner is that way or your mom or your dad, you're going to trip over yourself to do things for them. You're going to be like so happy to do things for them because it feels so good. It feels so reciprocal and delicious. It feels delicious. So these limits, these are instances where you often say yes, but you really want to, a boundary, is where you really want to say yes, but you often say yes, but you really want to say no. And so there's like a limit and then there's like a boundary, right? Where that's more of that. So let me think of an example. So okay, here you go. This just happened to a client of mine very recently. Mom and dad show up unannounced again on a Saturday. And my client had made plans to spend the day with just her and her husband and the kids. Okay. That was the day and she really wanted that, she really, they had this whole little thing planned with just them, and they have 2 daughters. And anyway, and they don't get to spend a lot of time with just the 4 of them because her family lives close by. 2 of his siblings live close by with their kids. There's just often a lot of the extended family time. And there's a problem with her parents showing up unannounced quite a bit. And most of the time it feels fine. They come over and it's like, oh yeah, let's have dinner together. Let's do whatever. But I told her that's the problem. There's times you do like it and there's times you don't. And so you really they can't guess when that is. So you have to decide that it's no longer. And so if this is you and your parents come to the door unannounced, and I certainly hope you didn't give them a key, because that was the other problem. So my client had given her parents a key and said, use it whenever. No. So we had to make that a boundary too, that the key was only for emergencies, not whenever they were coming over. And what's funny? In the beginning, her mother had said to her, oh, that feels funny. We don't want to just walk in your house. She was like, oh, of course, just come in. That's the whole reason we moved close to you, so we could all be together. Because sometimes in the beginning of something, you're like, yeah, beautiful, kumbaya, we're all together, I love it. And then as that becomes more of a reality, you're like, oh, no kumbaya, no love, no me, no love. So I said, so you have to tell them the truth in that moment. And she did in the moment say, and you could in that moment say, I wish you hadn't shown up unannounced. We made plans with just us today, and we really are going to keep those plans. So in the future, let us know you'd like to see us so we can see what works, And hey, do you want to make a plan now for tomorrow? Only if you want to. Don't say it out of guilt. But do you see the difference there? And again, I would even say that beforehand, right? To have that beforehand. Again, and that would be a limit, not necessarily a boundary. You have a limit on how people showing up unannounced at your house. Okay? Do you see the difference there? There's all kinds of limits like that where you set down something. Yeah, it's like a boundary. You can use the same word if you want. I just think it gets crazy making in your head where you're like, that's a boundary, that's a boundary, that's a boundary. And people are like, you're so anal, you're so uptight. So I would be careful with your language because I think there's a lot of negative pushback often when you keep using the word. And again, I think it's just different to have a limit around your personal time than thinking of it in that bigger way. But you could have it as a boundary with your whole family, like, hey, but I would announce it. I would send an email or talk to everybody individually, which is my favorite, by the way, and just have a direct conversation with them. There's nothing scary here. Like, love living close by. So happy we made this decision. And I know in the beginning I said just come whenever, but you know what? It's starting to be a problem. I didn't realize it would be this way. How could I have seen into the future? And I would really like it if you didn't do that anymore, and so here's what we would like to do now. What do you think? You could have a conversation if you want. When you have a conversation like that, most people are fine. It's but seething behind their back and being annoyed and usually you get critical and judgmental and mean to them. Not good, not loving. So, and you would apply all the same rules we just discussed to, everything, right? Like all those 4 things for boundaries you would apply here. Say what you're doing clearly, be confident, don't be angry at them for showing up, in this case unannounced, right? Follow through on what you said you were going to do. A lot of it's the same, but I just want you to sort of see that there's really nuanced differences. And by the way, they might accuse you of being selfish or a problem, you're too sensitive, you're too worried, you're too anal, you're too this, you're too that. And this is a classic deflection move. You finally set a limit or a boundary, depending, and instead of respecting it, they flip the script and they make you the villain, right? Oh my gosh, you're being so selfish, or you only think about yourself, or we're family. Why can't we come too? Which is what her mother had said. My client's mother had said, like, well, we're just, you guys are going to the zoo. We love the zoo. We'll come. We'll take you out for lunch, And she's like, no. We're just doing this as the 4 of us, Really, and I'll translate, what the other person is really saying is, I don't like this limit because it means I can't get what I want. That's the translation. So who's being selfish now? So when someone calls you selfish for setting a boundary or a limit, they're the ones being selfish. They are what we call projecting. They don't like that they're not getting what they want. They just don't see it that way. So instead of considering your needs, they're upset that they're not getting what they want or need. Do you see the the classic irony here? Are you picking up what I'm laying down? So, and I've often said that the more pushback you receive is directly correlated to how overdue your boundary or limit is. The angrier they are, the more you should be like, oh my God, I should have done this years ago. And you might feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's temporary. You know what's not temporary? A lifetime of resentment because you never spoke up. Okay? The discomfort is temporary. And I just wanted to go over some common issues with family, right, that I've seen in my practice. I would say the top one is like the emotional dumping ground. You know, you love your family, but that doesn't mean that you have like the bandwidth to be their full-time therapist. I would say most people in therapy tend to be the therapist in their families. So, you know, I know you've got some relatives who treat phone calls like free counseling sessions. They unloading every frustration while you just sit there like a hostage. I can't believe your father still hasn't fixed the leaky sink. He cares more about that dumb fantasy football league than me. This was a recent thing I heard from a client. Set a boundary. I care about you, but it's not okay for you to complain to me about dad or anyone. I'll be ending all conversations where you talk about someone else in a negative or gossipy way. That's not what I'm here for. And again, I would stop right there and go, there's so many things I'm excited, or leave that alone if you want, and just say, there's so many things I would love to talk to you about, dad, and complaining about dad is not one of them. And change the subject. Oh my God, did I tell you what the dog did yesterday? It was so funny. There you go. There you go. Look at that. This is what I use the most. It's a gentle way for people to get out of, what's going on. I don't like confrontation. I want to be really clear. I don't like confrontation. I do not. I don't know. People like it. I don't know. I'm not sure what that even means. I'm okay with it though. But I will tell you this, I'm more okay with it in my work life. There's definitely confrontation in my work life where I have to tell people things they do not want to hear. I'm getting paid to say it. So I'm going to say it. And I have really no problem there. I don't. It's not like I enjoy it, but I know I love this person. Like I care about this person. I care about this job, whatever it is. And so I know it's going to help, and I know it's for the best interest of everyone involved. So I'm going to say it. So it's easier, I should say. At home, though, if I have to talk to Gary about something, it's not like I relish that. Or if I have to talk to my kids, or I don't relish those moments. Who wants to do it? But one of my favorite things with my family, and I've shared this many times on the podcast. I have some brothers who have very different political views than I do. And it's the first thing I say, oh my gosh, I love you so much. We haven't talked in so long. There's so much I want to talk to you about. This is not one of them. And I just change the subject. And you know what? It works every single time. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I can't talk to you about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, no. And then I just keep going. I don't stop to discuss why they can't talk to me and how different my opinion is. Where's that going? Am I going to, change my brother's mind about his political affiliation? Not likely. So, and I'm choosing to be in this relationship with both my brothers, and I want to have a relationship with them, and that gets in the way. So, yeah. And if they couldn't not talk about it, or were trying to shove their views down my throat, I have to say I probably wouldn't have any relationship with them. And I will tell you, I certainly don't outside of them, when there's people with different views, I just assume certain things about them that I don't want in my life. So I have let people go, for bigger issues. In the same way, because sometimes people go, oh, I can't believe it. It's like, if someone was speaking in a really racist way to me, just some friend I made maybe, and you don't realize at first, and all of a sudden they started saying really racist things, I'd be done with that person. I wouldn't try to convince them not to be racist. I would just be like, oh, and I would tell them, like, listen, you have very different views about people than I do. I don't really see a place where we connect. Because to me, that would color everything. For me, it might not for you. Everyone's different. Let's try not to judge that. But I'm just telling you what happens for myself. Or if somebody was like extremely homophobic that I met, and maybe I was really friendly with them for a while and starting to create a relationship, but then found out they were super homophobic. That doesn't always come up in the first, few conversations. That would be the end for me. I'm like, no, not my person, right? So whatever. But you have to decide that for yourself. But So again, with family, immediate family, I don't think we always want to cut them off. So I'm giving you lots of options to not have to. The other thing I see family doing a lot is your life is my business, right? There's some relative, whoever that is, distant or close, who thinks that your life is their business. So they believe that your personal decisions are their personal decisions. Your job, they have opinions. Your dating life, they have so many opinions. Your parenting choices, forget about it, right? So again, you have to set that boundary or limit. I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with my choices and don't need any input on this. Unless it's a compliment, don't comment on my parenting, dating, job in the future, or and then you have your teeth. End the conversation. Stop coming over. Stop inviting you to lunch, whatever the thing is, right? Boom. That's how you do it. Okay? Another thing I've seen a lot of is the financial expectations. Some families operate like a shared bank account you didn't sign up for, whether it's a parent expecting financial support, a sibling asking for loans, or a cousin assuming, you'll pick up the tab or the check, every time you go out to eat. I think money boundaries can get really awkward, right? So, and if you have a lot more money than other people in your family and you enjoy treating, that's great. As long as you don't feel used in some way. If you really enjoy it, feels good, people are really appreciative, they say thank you. It really means a lot to them because otherwise they couldn't have these kind of experiences you're offering or eat these kind of meals or whatever. That feels really good and that might be great. But if it doesn't and you just have all this entitlement around you around money, you need to set a boundary, right? Or again, a limit. But I think in this case, it might be a full-on boundary. You can say things like, I have financial priorities I need to stick to, so I can't lend you money. If you continue to bring it up, if you continue to ask, I'm going to X, Y, or Z, right? That's it. And they might, again, come back with like, oh my gosh, but you have so much. What do you mean? There's more. You have more than you need. I just need $10,000. I would just, at that point, stop talking, literally. I would just kind of nod like, yep. If you're seeing me on YouTube, you're watching me. I'm just like nodding, like very neutral face. Like, yeah. So you're going to lend me the money? No, I already answered that. And then I would walk away. Say, you know what? Sounds like today's not a good day for us to keep chatting. I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to go. I'm going to whatever. That's it. You're done. If people keep pushing, again, and you hang around, that's on you. That's on you. I know it can feel really a big move to walk away or to hang up the phone. And I'm not saying slam the phone down on them. Tell them what you're doing. And again, if you give that, we'll just have to try again another time to chat. With financial stuff, I wouldn't say it that way because you're not giving them another chance to talk about financial stuff with you. We're not having that conversation. And you can even just say that. My finances are none of your business. And I'm telling you now. That's it. That's it. And then they could say whatever they say. But that's it. And by the way, if this person doesn't speak to you or stays angry, that's a big red flag to you that this person is not someone that you're in a healthy relationship with. I'm going to do a episode in the future on healthy relationships again. Some new things to look for. But anyway, you know what I mean? So let me have some final thoughts. Let's wrap this puppy up. Boundaries aren't mean, and allowing people to treat you any way they want isn't nice, because I will tell you this, you don't think or say nice things about these family members that quote unquote, trample your boundaries. So what is really nice here? What is your definition of nice? Is it nice to lie to your family? Because that's what you're doing every single time you say yes when you want to say no, or when you don't say how you're really feeling and then seethe in anger behind their back and talk crap about them. Nothing here is nice. I don't know what you think is nice. And I'm going to give you what might be a difficult truth to accept. I know, right at the end. You're like, oh, I was almost out of here, Abby. I was almost out of here. And this is like my Jewish mother love. You allow other people to, quote unquote, trample your boundaries because you don't want to deal with what you think will be uncomfortable feelings with that person. You're not doing it to be nice to them. You say that. Well, I didn't want to upset them. Bullshit. Look, I never swear. I don't swear often, but I'm going to call it bullshit. You're doing it for your own selfish reasons of not wanting to deal with real feelings in a moment. And that would be fine, except then you blame the other person for not respecting you or the limits you've set. This is craziness. And you can't do it anymore. It's done. It's done. So in the end, yes, you need to give others time to adjust to this new way of this the relationship you're now co-creating, this next iteration of your relationship with them. It doesn't mean you allow things to go. Again, you keep to the boundary all the time, but just understand they will try to push through the boundary again. And it's just your job each time to hold it. And when you do that, you will build that muscle. They will build that muscle, and you will come to a new place. Most people, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for it's been 40 years. Most people eventually accept the new dynamic. I know you don't think it. You think, no way would my mother ever do this. No way, my grandmother's too old. I'm telling you, most people eventually accept the new dynamic, especially when they see that you're happier and more present because of it, because they're getting a happier you. They're getting a more joyful, connecting you. So at first they might feel like you're pulling away, but over time they're going to see that these boundaries actually help the relationship. It doesn't hurt the relationship. And that's when you have them, which is beautiful. That's when the magic is there. I can't tell you how long that's going to take. I've seen it happen in a couple weeks for some families. I've seen it in a few months for others. But I'm telling you, it's not as long as you think. All right. So that's it. That's, I think, everything I want to say on that topic today. Please stick around to hear all about the giveaway, the bundle and everything I mentioned. And for anybody in Patreon, if you want to know, you know what you get when you're looking. But I want to talk about the different tiers in Patreon and what you're getting on the One Love Collective. But for everybody else, the Boundaries Within Different Cultures worksheet, I would highly recommend you download. And for everyone else, have an amazing week, and I will talk to you real soon. And for the rest of you who are staying, Tier 1, the inner circle, okay? Tier 1, you're getting the boundary clarity worksheet. The purpose of the worksheet is to really help you know which boundaries you need and why. There's a learning to hold boundaries with family journaling prompts, okay? There's some basic journaling prompts, and a 1-week boundary challenge. I haven't done many of those, and I think it's good. I think it'll really help you jumpstart your work. Tier 2, which is the Love Accelerator, you're getting, of course, everything in Tier 1, plus a guided meditation for holding boundaries. I think I really like this one. I'm really proud of it. You're also getting a family boundary script bank. It's important to have those ready to use responses for tough conversations. So I tried to make a little sheet of responses you could have, some scripts that you could read off of, so to speak, right? And then for Tier 3, which is the VIP Love Lab, you're getting everything in Tier 1 and 2. And there's a letter writing exercise, which I've used many times with clients. It's really helpful. There's a stop feeling guilty when you set boundaries, mindset shift exercise. And there's an uncovering your boundary blueprint. Okay. So there's deep work. And for anyone buying the whole, so you get all of that in the bundle for $8, which is pretty amazing, I want to say. And if you are in a Tier 1, maybe even in the One Love Collective, which is fine in the inner circle. And, for some of you, I know it's $5 a month is a lot, and you're really putting in a lot. And so that's why I try to give you a lot at that level. And of course the other, the ad-free podcast and, the early releases and all that good stuff. But if you can go deeper, if you're up for it, I would do that. Or maybe even just pay for the bundle. I hate to say it, but maybe, or go to an accelerate. You can also go up to Tier 3 for 1 month and get it, and then go back down if that feels better for you. I mean, I think that there's things you could do to figure that out if you really wanted it and loved it. And I think that's it. So again, if you want the bundle, there are instructions under the video on YouTube. And you can go to my website under the relationship tips and tools page, which is the blog for this episode. Everything will be there. Or you can go to the podcast page. Again, this episode, everything will be there. I love you so much. Hopefully this episode really helped you handle a lot of these pieces that have been out there. I keep hearing about them, so I tried to put it all into one nice place for you. Remember, I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon.